The A8 is Audi's largest luxury saloon, which, in improved third-generation guise, is smarter, more efficient and full of technology. Better established badges in this sector may be tempting, but they can't offer many of the almost unique things this car brings to this segment. Four-wheel drive, V8 diesel power, cylinder-on-demand efficiency and cleverer matrix LED headlamps are just a few examples. There's enough here to please the most demanding boardroom buyer. Audi is used to winning. It's got extremely good at it, continuing to push technological boundaries wherever it can to stay a step ahead of its rivals. And the best place to see Vorsprung durch Technik at work? Well, it has to be here, doesn't it, with the brand's top A8 large luxury saloon. In this guise, further improved in revised third-generation form. It's hard to remember now, but prior to this A8's original launch back in 1994, Audi wasn't really considered a fully fledged, prestigious brand. Its cars generally languished in the corner of your local Volkswagen dealer's showroom and appealed to those who couldn't quite stretch to the products of the smarter German makers. The first generation A8 changed all of that, a car the like of which the luxury segment had never seen before. Aluminium space frame technology from NASA, four-wheel drive quattro technology from the World Rally Championship, and exquisite standards of build quality that redefined what boardroom buyers could expect from a European luxury car. At a stroke, it put posh rivals on the back foot, and Audi has never looked back since. With the standard set, Ingolstadt turned its attention to smaller, more profitable models. The A8, it seemed, had had its turn in the limelight. We got a second generation version in 2003 and a Mark III model in 2010, both promising and delivering a further refinement of the original recipe. But it wasn't quite enough. Jaguar's XJ was still seen as more dynamic, Mercedes S-Class as more luxurious, and BMW's 7 Series as a compromise between the two. The world largely forgot the A8's still unique set of attributes, its aluminium space frame and quattro cleverness. It wasn't, we were told by those who were supposed to know about these things, a car you could really fall in love with. It wasn't a car that would say enough of the right things about you. But it might be now. When this much improved Mark III model was launched early in 2014, it offered styling that now delivered a slightly more overt statement of quality, and Euro 6 engines that were both more powerful and efficient. But as ever, it's the technology that will sell this car. It isn't only quattro four-wheel drive that marks it out from its rivals, it's also things like cylinder-on-demand technology and high-tech matrix LED headlights that set fresh standards. Will it all be enough in a segment where every major rival is either completely new or substantially improved? Let's find out. If somebody had told me 10 years ago that I'd be driving a 2-ton diesel-powered limo capable of accelerating from rest to 62 miles an hour, supercar style in under 5 seconds, I wouldn't have believed it. Yet that's exactly what this A8 can deliver, at least in the desirable 4.2-litre TDI guise that I'm driving here. I've chosen this variant because it provides yet another uniquely A8 attribute in this segment by offering buyers the kind of V8 powered diesel that luxury saloon customers can only otherwise get by switching to a large, prestigious SUV. This time round, this engine delivers another 34 PS, with output boosted to 385 PS and torque up to a thunderous 850 Newton meters. Even the lesser 3-litre TDI that most people choose, its 258 PS diesel, now 8 PS pokier, can happily uproot trees with its 580 Newton meters of pulling power, so 62 is just 5.9 seconds away, which is quite as fast as you want to go in this class of car. Even if you ignore their efficient fuel figures, both these diesel variants feel more flexible than the similarly priced petrol options, a 3-litre TFSI V6 that uses a supercharger to achieve its 310 PS, that's 20 PS more than before, and an even less justifiable 4.2-litre FSI V8 variant with 435 PS, that's 15 PS more. You can't fault their levels of performance though. The supercharged 3-litre unit makes 62 miles an hour in 5.7 seconds, while the biturbo V8 manages it in 4.6 seconds, with both, like virtually all A8s, needing to be artificially restrained at 155 miles an hour. That V8 is also used in uprated 520 PS form in the S8 Sports Saloon, which continues on much as before, powering to 62 miles an hour in just 4.1 seconds. Captains of industry, meanwhile, can still order the mighty 500 PS 6.3-litre petrol W12 flagship model. A glance at the spec sheet in every case might suggest this third generation A8 to have lost the significant weight advantage the Mark II model used to have over its rivals, courtesy of its aluminium space frame underpinnings. But that's to ignore the way that this Audi is almost unique in its class with its standard fitment of quattro four-wheel drive. The only variant that does without this tractional cleverness is the rare front-driven hybrid version, which mates a 211 PS 2-litre TFSI petrol engine with a 40 kilowatt electric motor for a combined output of 245 PS, enough to get you to 62 miles an hour in 7.7 seconds en route to 146 miles an hour. You can drive for up to a couple of miles on electric power alone too, for what that's worth. For me though, an A8 without quattro traction isn't really a true A8. This system pushes 60% of power to the rear and 40% to the front during normal driving, but if grip is lost at either end, the majority of power instantly goes to the other axle. True, were Audi to copy its two-wheel drive rivals and delete the quattro setup on more of its A8 models, then this car's fuel and CO2 returns would doubtless make the efficient dynamics of a BMW 7 Series and the blue tech efficiency of a Mercedes S-Class look, well, rather less efficient. But, as I've just suggested, that would be to rob this car of one of its most important draws. On any road, in almost any conditions, at almost any speed, this A8 feels better the harder you drive it, solidly planted and reassuring in a way that no rival can better and few can match. Once you've used quattro four-wheel drive throughout a rainy, icy British winter, you'll take a lot of persuading to go back to life without it. You could say the same about the pillowy adaptive air suspension. It's not as magic carpet-like as the rival Mercedes S-Class's setup at slower speeds on poorer surfaces. But pick up the pace and the setup really comes into its own, automatically lowering the car at high speeds or when you're pushing on. The system works through the same self-explanatory 5 modes of the Drive Select electronic chassis tuning system, comfort, dynamic and efficiency being the main ones, with individual if you want to tailor the setup yourself and auto if you can't be bothered to choose. These appropriately alter throttle and gear change responses to suit relaxed, performance orientated or efficiency prioritized styles of driving. Steering feedback too, though that's still a bit vague even if you do pay extra for the dynamic steering option that I've got on this car. That'll be of interest to keen drivers, but I don't think there'll be too many of those signing up for mainstream versions of this model. Most customers likely to prefer simply sitting back and savouring the whisper-quiet double-glazed refinement as the standard 8-speed Tiptronic transmission fitted to all models slurs effortlessly through the gears. Hybrid, V8 and W12 models all get clever ANC active noise cancellation, which broadcasts a special anti-phase sound through the speakers, which somehow cancels out intrusive cabin noise. Don't ask me how it works, but it does. Typical A8 buyers will love all of this and never realise what a dynamic side this car can have to its character, especially when fitted with the clever sports differential on the rear axle. This feature, standard on top trim levels and on the S8, distributes power optimally between the back wheels during tight cornering, literally pushing the car through the corner. The rest of the A8 experience is luxury personified, with almost everything programmable to your mood. Though this isn't quite the most rewarding driver's car in its sector, there are so many factors that contribute to its status as arguably the most complete one. Highlights? Well, it's hard to pick one thing, but if I had to choose, I'd go for the achingly clever optional matrix LED headlamps. Here, the party trick is the way that they can stay on high beam all of the time while using a camera mounted at the top of the windscreen to react to other traffic by dimming or turning off individual LED clusters. That means other motorists won't be dazzled, but both sides of the road around you and the oncoming way ahead will still be completely full beam lit. The system can even detect animals and also pedestrians who get a pulsing LED flash alerting your approach. Once you've driven regularly at night with this system, take it from me, you won't want to be without it. Never one of the luxury saloon sector's most ostentatious players, the A8 tends to maintain a cool, studied elegance in its design, and in that respect, little has changed here. Now though, it's got a touch more personality too. 4 creases run down the sleeker bonnet to the upper edges of a more sculptured and richly detailed hexagonal single-frame grille. Its horizontal double bars underscoring this car's class-leading width. It's longer and lower than its competitors too. The headlights are also flatter and wider, functioning with a brilliant crystal shine from optional matrix LED technology that sets new standards in this segment. Further down are air inlets in the redesigned lower apron that now extend all the way across the width of the front and are framed in chromed clasps. The result of all this careful detailing remains an elegant alternative in a sector overpopulated by bourgeois status symbols. In pictures, you'd be forgiven for dismissing this A8 as little more than a larger A4. Much larger in the case of the optional long wheelbase body style I have here, which adds 130mm to the length of a shape that follows the usual Audi pattern, with the body accounting for 2/3 of the vehicle's overall height and the glasshouse the remaining third. In profile, there's also the brand's familiar Tornado line that runs tightly above the wheel arches, creating a more powerful stance. View this car in the metal though, or perhaps I should say in the aluminium, and it's a much more individual piece of design with a sinewy tautness about its lines and subtle nuances that impress themselves upon you the closer you look and the more time you spend with the car. The chrome that defines the lower body profile, the fine strips embedded in the door handles, the high gloss black window frames. I could go on. All add a level of finesse and quality that also defines the smarter rear end, with its sleeker spoiler, dual trapezoidal tailpipes and flatter LED lights visually connected by a chromed bar. But as ever with an A8, it's what's underneath all this tinsel that really ought to command your attention. Namely the high-tech aluminium Audi space frame, which debuted over 2 decades ago and is 40% lighter than a corresponding steel body, something no one ever seems to realise because that weight saving is disguised by the fitment of the four-wheel drive system most rivals don't bother to offer. Is the space frame approach better than the simpler aluminium monocoque structure favoured by the rival Jaguar XJ? Well, the XJ isn't significantly lighter despite not hauling around quattro four-wheel drive. Draw your own conclusions. In fact, wherever you look on this A8, the technology keeps on coming. Take the boot, which, depending on specification, either flips up from a key fob button, rises electrically, or if you approach the car laden down with bags, will rise in response to a wave of your foot beneath the bumper. The trunk, once revealed, is huge, provided you don't opt for a hybrid model with batteries to lump around that drop its capacity to 335 litres. It's a mark of Audi's embarrassment at this figure that it throws in a tailor-made luggage set for hybrid buyers. Otherwise, with the rest of the range, or at least with the petrol models, you get a 520 litre total that's 10 litres more than before, unbettered in this class and easily enough for, say, 4 golf bags. Now, I said only the petrol models. With a TDI diesel, you only get 490 litres. That's because A8 TDIs are classified as clean diesels these days and have to have an AdBlue additive to their NOx filters that requires a separate small tank that impinges on boot space. Whichever engine you choose, unfortunately you've got to pay extra for this useful through loading facility into which you can put things like skis. But a car of this kind is more about prestige than practicalities. How will it make you feel once inside? Let's start with the rear. Access through doors 13 centimetres longer in this long wheelbase model and fitted out with electric sunblinds, retractable across the rear window for shade and privacy. Once inside, you're ensconced in a world of measured elegance, beautiful ambient lighting and hand sanded and varnished wood panels reminding you how much you paid. Standard A8s get the usual 3-person rear seat that rather emphasises the slight narrowness of this cabin in comparison to obvious rivals. Better then if, like most Asian and US customers, you've opted for this longer body style with its extra 120mm of rear legroom, to pay extra for the individual rear seat package that I've got here and do away with the middle berth almost entirely. Now here these seats are heated and power adjustable with deliciously soft comfort head restraints in a package that also includes 4-zone air conditioning and a front passenger seat that can be adjusted from the rear so that you can stretch out more comfortably using the optional footrests. Chief executive types wanting to go further can specify a leather and veneer clad centre console extending back from the front, seat ventilation with a massage function, seat back multimedia screens, a cool box and the kind of even more decadent reclining luxury seat that'd be fitted to a private jet. Nice touches include these vanity mirrors and this panoramic glass roof with its electrically retracting sunblind. Up front, there's this same luxurious blend of craftsmanship fused with technology, with a wraparound dash fashioned in a wide arch that spans the cabin, encircling the slim, low instrument panel. You view it through a leather-trimmed, electrically operated, multifunction steering wheel that, according to preference, comes with either 3 or 4 spokes and reveals large black-faced dials featuring clear, classic graphics and red needles. Not that you'll need to look at these very often if you've opted to pay extra for the head-up display that projects key driving information right into your line of sight at the base of the windscreen. The latest version of the excellent MMI control interface marshals the ancillary functions on a colour display screen that glides from the dash, helping the A8 do a better job than most rivals of keeping the dreaded button clutter to a minimum. And special mention must go to the gorgeous aeronautical gear lever that makes you feel like you're bringing a 747 into land. I also like the clever touchpad on which drivers can trace letters with a finger to input destinations to the satellite navigation system or stereo commands. A pity you have to do it with your left hand. And the superbly supportive 12-way power adjustable seats, trimmed in lovely breathable Unicom leather with 110 separate pieces that are being cut, placed and stitched by hand. Around these, if budget permits, you can specify almost any kind of finishing cabin trim it's possible to imagine, with ash, birch, poplar or walnut veneer finishes, offering up the feel of the kind of modern Bentley that draws so much on this A8's engineering. Pricing for the four-door variants in the mainstream A8 range sits in the usual £60,000 to £75,000 bracket, common to most cars in the full-sized luxury saloon sector. You don't have to pay extra for the quattro four-wheel drive system that most rivals don't even offer as an option. It's an integral part of A8 motoring. There is, though, a £4,000 model-for-model premium to find if you want the long wheelbase body style of this test car. Here we're primarily focusing on mainstream models, and for almost all buyers that means the entry-level 3-litre TDI Quattro diesel, the only variant you can have in base SE spec. Beyond that, there's the choice of pricier SE Executive or Sport Executive trim levels that give you a wider choice of engines, including the pokier 385 PS 4.2-litre TDI unit that I've been trying here. Not that you have to have your A8 model with diesel power. In fact, the range actually offers quite a few petrol options. There's a 310 PS 3-litre TFSI V6 engine, limited to the short wheelbase body style, and a 435 PS 4-litre TFSI bi-turbo V8 unit, limited to the long wheelbase body style. If neither of these power plants appeal, then it might also interest you to know that both body shapes offer the alternative of A8 motoring in rare 2-litre TFSI hybrid guise. This mates a 210 PS 2-litre petrol unit with a 54 PS electric motor. And talking of rare A8s, those fortunate enough to be able to look beyond the mainstream models can further consider the two flagship options, both petrol powered. For around £80,000 there's the S8 Sport Saloon, powered by a 520 PS 4-litre TFSI petrol V8 and offered only in short wheelbase guise. For around £100,000 there's a W12 flagship model, powered by a 500 PS 6.3-litre 12-cylinder petrol unit and only offered in long wheelbase form. So, with the range rundown completed, let's look at the value proposition on offer here, making sure we compare against full-sized rather than executive-sized luxury models. In other words, pitching this A8 against cars in the Mercedes S-Class sector rather than the Mercedes E-Class segment that Audi targets with its smaller A6. Using as a benchmark the A8 3-litre TDI Quattro variant that almost everyone buys, you're looking at paying much the same money as you would for an equivalent BMW 730D, and only about £2,000 more than you'd need for a Jaguar XJ 3-litre V6 diesel. That seems reasonable given Audi's standard provision of four-wheel drive. All-wheel drive is a feature only otherwise affordably offered in this class by Volkswagen's vanishingly rare Phaeton, a car that costs around £4,000 less, but unfortunately depreciates like a stone. In terms of costlier rivals, well, if you're looking at the price of a base A8 TDI, you'll need around £4,000 more to get yourself entry-level diesel versions of the Mercedes S-Class or Porsche Panamera. I'm not sure that petrol-powered A8s make quite as much sense. Though the 3-litre TFSI variant looks reasonable value next to the Jaguar and BMW alternatives, and the A8 4-litre TFSI probably makes more sense than the only realistic Lexus option in this sector, the LS460, it's also true that in both cases you can get a directly comparable Porsche Panamera for the same money, which some might see as being more exclusive. As for the A8 2-litre TFSI petrol hybrid, well, yes, it's the least expensive hybrid option in this segment, but competitor models don't really cost much more and are either much more powerful, in the case of the petrol BMW Active Hybrid 7 Series, or much more frugal, in the case of the diesel Mercedes S300 BlueTech Hybrid. The petrol-powered A8 model that does seem to be well pitched and priced though is the stonkingly rapid S8. Okay, so it's £80,000, but remember that to match this 520 PS model's performance in this segment, you'd have to spend over £12,000 more on a Jaguar XJR, nearly £30,000 more on a Maserati Quattro GTS, or nearly £40,000 more on a Mercedes S63 AMG. If, having considered all of this, you conclude that it is an A8 that you really want, then equipment levels shouldn't disappoint. The Quattro four-wheel drive system I've been talking about features on all models bar the hybrid variant, and all models get an 8-speed automatic gearbox, alloy wheels of at least 18 inches in size, metallic paint, LED headlamps that automatically dip themselves at night, beautiful Valcona leather seats that are heated and electrically adjustable in the front, adaptive air suspension, and the Audi Drive Select system that enables you to switch the throttle, steering and gear shifting to suit the road that you're on and the mood that you're in. Other nice to have items include auto headlamps and wipers, parking sensors, cruise control, double glazing for extra interior refinement, interior wood trim, headlamp washers, a power adjustable steering column, an auto dimming rear view mirror, and a 4-spoke multifunction leather trimmed steering wheel with gear shift paddles. Plus there's also the MMI infotainment setup with its 7-inch high-res screen via which you control a high-end Audi sound system with a DAB digital radio, as well as Bluetooth phone compatibility and satellite navigation. The sat-nav setup with its 60GB hard drive and 3D graphics is especially clever. If your car has the necessary special module, it's potentially programmable in all kinds of clever ways that I think really set this car apart. For example, if at night it's directed you to a crossroads, it'll widen the headlight beam so that you can better see the junction. If it's directed you abroad, it'll tweak the headlamps for driving on the right and change the clock for you. If it's taking you uphill or round tight corners, it'll pre-warn the auto gearbox, so avoiding unnecessary gear changes for a smoother, more efficient journey. Another feature that uses sat-nav information to adapt itself to the road ahead is the Matrix LED headlamp package fitted to this car. These more powerful lights, with their unique crystal-like shine, are always one step ahead of you, moving with the corners and adjusting to the kind of road you're on. Other tempting options fitted to the highly specified A8 I have here include huge 20-inch alloy wheels, extended leather trim, an enormous panoramic sunroof, a heated windscreen, powered door closure, a head-up display, and lovely Alcantara trim for special comfort front seats with 22-way adjustment that can cool and massage you. Plus a parking system that can steer you into spaces while you watch on a top-view dash-mounted display screen. There's also a night vision setup that now recognises animals, a TV tuner, a wonderful 14-speaker 600-watt Bose surround sound system, and at the back electrically adjustable seats, footrests and a through load facility to extend the boot capacity. This car also has the dynamic steering system that's certainly worth trying. If you're the sort that'll appreciate it, you probably also need to ask your dealer about the sports differential that transfers torque between the rear wheels through tight corners to fire you from bend to bend. It's optional on lower order models, but standard on the sportier ones. You can even get carbon ceramic brakes, but that's probably going a bit far unless you're an S8 customer. Go for a long wheelbase model like this one and you'll want to consider the individual electrically adjusting rear seat package, or indeed the full reclining seat setup with its power footrests. Maybe even multimedia screens and a cool box too. If my company was paying, I'd also want to upgrade to the 19-speaker, 19-channel, 1400-watt Bang & Olufsen advanced sound system. And all of that is before you get to the particularly clever electronic connectivity options that really do set this A8 range apart. The Audi Connect system lets the driver network with the internet and with other vehicles, and this particular model gets it in its most sophisticated mobile telephone preparation high with Audi Connect guise. Now with this you can turn your A8 into a WLAN or wireless local area network hotspot so that you can surf the internet and email with up to 8 mobile devices. This also brings into play features such as navigation with images from Google Earth, a Google Points of Interest search function with voice control, and a web radio setup so you can tune into stations around the world. There's also a clever Audi online traffic information system that uses live traffic information to reroute you around jams. The setup can now also deliver parking information, displaying details on parking lots and parking garages almost anywhere you're likely to go. Truly, this is motoring in the 21st century. Safety-wise, there are the usual Isofix child seat fastenings, anti-whiplash head restraints and a tyre pressure loss indicator, plus no fewer than 8 airbags. Should you have a collision that deploys all this stuff and, quite understandably, go to pieces, a secondary collision brake assist system will automatically apply the brakes again to help avoid a further accident. But hopefully, of course, none of this stuff will ever be needed. To help in that regard, there is, as you would expect, a complete roster of electronic acronyms, including the usual assistance for braking, traction and stability control. You also get Audi's clever pre-sense system, which will automatically tension the front seat belts and close both the windows and, if fitted, the power sunroof if the ESP system indicates that the car is about to skid. Beyond that, there is of course plenty of optional safety technology. I particularly like the ACC adaptive cruise control system, which works at up to 124 miles an hour and is capable of bringing the car to a complete stop, then automatically pulling it away again if necessary. You can also build into this setup the even smarter pre-sense front system. This uses a radar sensor at the top of the windscreen to constantly scan the road ahead for potential collision risks, warning the driver if one is detected and, if necessary, even automatically braking the car to respond if you're travelling below 19 miles an hour. Other neat optional touches include a traffic sign detection setup that pictures speed signs as you pass and displays them on the dash, and a park assist setup that can automatically steer you into spaces. Beyond that, there's also Audi's side assist to stop you dangerously pulling out to overtake when there's a vehicle in your blind spot, and Audi active lane assist, which stops dozy drivers from veering out of their lanes on the highway. Now, there aren't many aspects of this car I can cover without talking about aluminium or four-wheel drive. Here's another. Without the aluminium ASF Audi space frame construction, the Ingolstadt engineers simply couldn't have justified adding the weight of the quattro system that sets this car apart in its segment. A measure of just how much difference the ASF structure makes can be found in the fact that a comparably sized four-wheel drive Volkswagen Phaeton without it is half a ton heavier and consumes 40% more fuel. Or in the fact that the volume A8 3-litre TDI model with four-wheel drive is cleaner than comparable Jaguar XJ and Porsche Panamera diesel rivals without it. And directly comparable BMW 7 Series and Mercedes S-Class two-wheel drive diesel competitors are only fractionally ahead of the 45.6 miles to the gallon combined cycle and 155 grams per kilometre CO2 figures that this best-selling A8 variant delivers. It's an impressive showing, this revised third-generation 3-litre TDI A8, more efficient with the Quattro setup fitted than the pre-facelift model was without it. That means this variant has dropped 2 company car tax bands into band G for VED, attracting a more manageable 27% BIK rating. The CO2 reading now also dips it under the crucial 160 grams per kilometre capital allowances barrier. So how has Audi managed this improvement as part of this model's midlife revisions? After all, the previous version already came complete with all the usual efficiency initiatives you'd now expect from a car of this kind. The stop-start system that cuts the engine in traffic, brake energy recuperation which recycles energy you'd otherwise lose when braking or cruising, a climate control system that can be used in a highly economic eco mode, the efficiency setting you can choose on the Drive Select vehicle dynamic system, a gear shift indicator, and an efficiency program that you'll find on the onboard computer that gives you fuel saving tips. To go further, the Audi engineers sweated the details. One example being an innovative structure used in the aluminium wheels, which has reduced their total weight by a useful 17.4 kilograms. Then there's the more efficient air conditioning, a redesigned radiator, and sleeker bodywork, which has reduced the drag coefficient from 0.30 CD to a more slippery 0.26 CD. Beyond the entry-level diesel model, the engineers found that there were important gains to be made across the now Euro 6 compliant engine range, despite increased engine power on most variants. The top 4.2 litre TDI diesel that I'm trying here gets a selective catalytic reduction system with an AdBlue additive to break down nitrogen oxides. It now manages 38.2 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and 194 grams per kilometre of CO2. The 3 litre TFSI petrol variant gets both indirect and direct injection and a supercharger that can be cut down at low loads. As a result, it now manages 30.2 miles to the gallon and 183 grams per kilometre of CO2. Moving further up the range, pokier engines build in Audi's clever COD cylinder on demand technology, which shuts down selected cylinders on part throttle loads for greater efficiency. As a result of this, the 4 litre TFSI V8 delivers 30.7 miles to the gallon and 216 grams per kilometre of CO2, and even the S8, with its uprated version of the same engine, manages 29.4 miles to the gallon and 225 grams per kilometre. The mighty 500 PS W12 model also now gets the COD cleverness, though its returns are still quite sobering, 24.1 miles to the gallon and 270 grams per kilometre. Audi hasn't ignored its rivals' increasing interest in hybrid technology either, though has chosen a subtly different route into it with its A8 hybrid model, the only car in the range with two-wheel drive. Mercedes S-Class hybrids are diesel-powered, while BMW's Active Hybrid 7 uses 6-cylinder petrol power. Audi, meanwhile, has chosen a 4-cylinder petrol engine to mate with electric power. In this case, the X-Golf GTI 2-litre TFSI unit, combined with a 40 kilowatt electric motor. The resulting combo can deliver 45.6 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle, 144 grams per kilometre of CO2, and take you up to a couple of miles on electric power alone. What else? Residual values sit somewhere between BMW and Mercedes, and insurance, which is cheaper than it is for a comparable Mercedes S-Class, is based on Group 46 for the 3 litre TFSI petrol, 46 or 47 for the 3 litre TDI diesel, 49 for the two 4 litre TFSI petrol models, and 50 for the 4.2 TDI diesel. Further running cost assistance is provided by a fixed cost servicing plan that can cover you for 3 years or 30,000 miles, and you can also extend the unremarkable 3-year 60,000 mile warranty to either 4 or 5 years at extra cost. This A8 is an impressive achievement. Every car in this segment is. As it should be, this is a showcase for Audi's best and most advanced technologies. Aluminium construction and quattro all-wheel drive, now joined by astonishingly clever, industry-leading headlamp technology and cylinder-on-demand efficiency. Adding classier design and a range of engines that are pokier, yet cleaner and more frugal, and you've a formidable luxury saloon. But is it one that you can bond with, a luxury conveyance you'll love as well as admire? The answer depends upon the owner, of course. Some may still see this A8 as being a little remote compared to a wood-panelled Jaguar, a status-conscious Mercedes, or a proudly opulent BMW. I'm guessing though that a significant number of boardroom buyers might now find this Audi a surprisingly complete all-round choice. Hugely capable, innovative, beautifully built, and able better than any rival to alter its dynamic character to your driving mood, this is the car that rivals always feared Audi would build. And if you're in this market, it's one you need to try.